an apple a day keeps the doctor away, or pretty much anybody if you throw it hard enough. The man who is the only person to ever ace a Rorschach test. The man who years ago created a city out of Legos, and today over 600,000 people live and work there. The man whose charm is so contagious that vaccines were created for it. The man who once had an awkward moment just to see how it felt. The man who lives vicariously through himself. The man who believes it's never too early to start beefing up your obituary. And the man who's been known to cure narcolepsy just by walking into a room. It is I, the man who's taught his cat to do his taxes, and the man who once brought a knife to a gunfight just to make things even. It's me, the Sean. How are you? Who's your buddy? Who's your partner? Who's your friend? Who's your lover? Who's hiding in the closet? Who's running out the back door? It's good to talk to you. Always nice to chat with anybody. So greetings and salutations. Welcome to my strange universe, where you're currently traveling outside the time-space continuum and therefore beyond the range of any archaic telephonic communication technology. And I will respond to your transmission for help, assistance, instruction, and evolutionary advancement as soon as I return to this vibrational frequency that you humans call the pleasant present. So please fasten your safety belts on your soles, put your tray tables up in your frontal lobes, and keep your arms and legs inside the radio at all times. You are now free to move about this strange universe. Now, I'm not sure if he's joining us or not, but JP is kind of here.
Why are you falling apart?
There he is. There he is. And of course, I've got two of my all-time favorite people. We've got Jay Pierpont, and of course my sidekick, the Sancho Panza to my Man of La Mancha, the Cisco to my Poncho, the Dr. Elephant to my Astro Boy, the Stan to my Laurel, the K9 to my Doctor Who, the Bucky Barnes to my Captain America, the Boo Boo to my Yogi, and the Augie Doggy to my Daddy Doggy. Of course, I'm odd, he's even. It's Even Steven Travesty. What's up, Even Steven?
Yo, 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 what's going on?
And it's I guess you've struck up a friendship with my buddy Stacy, the stripper economist.
Yes, senor.
Yes, no? Okay, all right. Well,
yes.
I know you guys have been plotting the takeover of the entire planet, actually.
Well,
so it's
we're going to start with the Lower East Side and work our way up.
Yes, the conquest of the tri-state area. That's because you and Dr. Doofenshmirtz, Evil Incorporated, but that's Phineas and Ferb. Anyway, how are you, JP? I hear you're what? You're stuffing things into a sheep's stomach and ramming them down your throat today?
Actually, that's January the 25th, which is my death day. But
your death day? Wait a minute, your death day?
Well, everybody's got a birthday. I had a death day, and then I woke up 3 weeks later. But long story.
What? Right. I might have to hear this story, but maybe in a second. But
that's what we call Burns Night, and not Burns Unit. But anyway.
No.
I mean,
wait. You can't just throw these bizarre coded Scottish isms at me and not explain some of them.
I make no sense.
Okay, all right.
There is madness in my method.
That's good. Stop making sense.
Are you Spoderman? Who's Spoderman around here?
I'm Spoderman. But I have to make clear that a Spoda is somebody who usually smokes a lot of pot and then doesn't do what he's supposed to do, because I was supposed to go to work today, but I forgot. I was supposed to pay the phone bill, but I didn't. I was supposed to pay the heat, which is why I'm cold. So I took that to another level, where now, because I don't really drink at all, whenever they want me something to drink in a bar, I actually ask them to do half club soda, which is kind of sour, nasty tasting, and half Sprite or 7-Up, which is a Sprite and soda, which is in fact a Spoda. So now it's become a famous drink, because it's now, you cut the sugar out of because Sprite's too sweet and the club soda's too sour. So that's why it's called a Spoda. It's a drink.
There you go. Thank you for that enlightenment, Captain. And you're Spoderman, and I'm over here. No, I'm eating bean sprouts, which I've sprouted myself over the last couple of days. Day 3 bean sprouts, very nice, and 2 fresh eggs from my chicken Peckady. There's 2 of them, Buckety and Peckady.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway, it's a long story.
Scintillating radio. The inside of you is always fascinating. All right, even Steven, cue up. We're doing true crime today. We're doing a lot of true crime today on Strange Universe. The Before It's News video that I sent you, the first one. Steve?
Yes.
Are you there?
Yes.
Okay, I sent you a video, the beforeitsnews.com video.
Yes, the one from Texas?
Yes, the Texas one. Yeah, I want you to cue that video up for me.
Working on it.
Okay, all right. You work on it, and I'll do the story. A Texas police officer briefly put a woman video recording law enforcement in a chokehold and threatened her with arrest for failing to produce identification while officers investigated a fight that had broken out in a restaurant parking lot. And by the way, the Supreme Court has recently just ruled that citizens with video cameras or telephones or whatever have every right to stand by and actually photograph police. I mean, this is a Supreme Court case now. But the footage shows Corpus Christi Sergeant J.E. Lockhart repeatedly instructing Lanessa Espinoza, who was not being charged with a crime, to show ID or be arrested. After she declined to do so, Espinoza was placed in a chokehold by an assisting off-duty officer and detained. Now, officers ultimately released her without charges, because they choked her. There is probable cause for us to be out here, Lockhart told Espinoza. I want to know who you are, so I'm requesting your ID. You fail to ID, I'm going to take you to jail, and that's law. The woman asked officers what she was being charged with, contending she did not legally have to show her identification until a formal charge had been made. What's my charge? You're not being charged with anything, the officer replied. Then I don't have to show you my ID, Espinoza countered. You're involved in an investigation. You want to interfere with an investigation? You're going to jail for interfering with a police officer and performing in the performance of his investigation. Do you understand? And an assisting off-duty officer then briefly put Espinoza in a chokehold before she was detained. An off-duty officer, some guy dressed in a trench coat, by the way. The incident took place in mid-August, but Espinoza only updated the footage Monday, telling the Blaze that she wanted to let things cool off before posting the video online. According to Espinoza, she started recording officers after a fight that involved her friend broke out by her car. She denied any involvement in the fight. After she was detained, Espinoza said officers requested she delete the footage she recorded on her phone, citing concerns for her personal safety. I said the cops are going to beat the living snot out of you if you don't do what we say. I was scared, she told the Blaze. Department Representatives Kirk Stowers denied to the Blaze that an officer asked Espinoza to delete any footage captured on her phone. Further, he added that she, quote, admitted to an involvement in the fight and was not only charged and was only not charged because it was determined she was, quote, not an aggressor, but intervened to break up the fight. You gotta love Mexican girls. They like to fight. A statement posted online by the department echoed that claim. A review of the incident shows that Senior Officer Jerry Lockhart arrived to assist in what had been a fight involving 10 people that was no longer in progress. Because where are the cops when you need them, right? He shows up after everything's done and, tries to arrest everybody. Officer Lockhart started to assist the off-duty NCDA officer in the investigation of the fight, and he was directed to Miss Espinoza by the off-duty NCDA officer because she'd been involved in the altercation. Ms. Espinoza was restrained by the off-duty NCDA officer and detained by Officer Lockhart for interference with public duties. And the detention was based on the incident that she had been involved in the fight, which she admitted to being involved in, and not due to the fact that Miss Espinoza was videotaping the officers. All right, roll that clip, son. Let's see what they have to say.
Sit on my car. You both get out. Sit on my car. Sorry. I know. That's okay.
This one right here is a jailhouse warrior refusing to ID.
I will, no problem. I will give my ID if I'm being charged with something. I don't have to show my ID unless I'm being charged something. That is the law.
There's a probable cause for us to be out here.
Yes, sir.
I want to know who you are. So I'm requesting your ID. You failed ID, I'm going to take you into jail. And that's law.
That's law?
That's the law.
What's your name, sir?
Lockhart.
What's your number? I'm sorry, I don't have a good video.
1064.
1064?
Mm-hmm.
Lockhart? Okay. So what's my charge?
You're not being charged with anything.
Then I don't have to show you my ID, sir.
You're involved in an investigation. You want to interfere with the investigation? You're going to jail for interfering with a police officer in performance of the investigation. Do you understand that?
Sir,
do you understand that? Yes or no?
I plead the fifth.
You plead the fifth? Let me have your ID.
Nope. I'm going to take a step back because I'm feeling threatened. You are an armed civilian, sir.
Lisa, please.
No, you can't do this. This is illegal.
Lisa.
Hey, no, she didn't do that. She didn't.
Lisa, chill. Lisa, please.
All right. Any comments, gentlemen?
Well, she knew what she was talking about.
Well, she does and she doesn't. Unfortunately, okay, so a couple of things going on here. The Supreme Court, and again, it completely sucks. Jefferson was the one that said it was complete insanity to give 9 people who are federal employees jobs for life and allow them to interpret the Constitution every day. He always thought that the judicial branch had an inordinate amount of power that was completely out of phase with the other 2 branches of government. But unfortunately, one of 2 things here. The Supreme Court has ruled that you have to present and or show ID to police officers who request it. I don't like it, but they have. Number 2, you are fully within your rights to film and or videotape, because there was a woman who was standing on her lawn who was then arrested by the police because she had a video camera and was photographing them, beating somebody up in the street, which did go all the way to the Supreme Court. I think the ACLU took it all the way there. And they said you have every right to film and photograph them. But the other challenges here is that there is a fight, and everybody was saying that she was involved in the fight. Therefore, they're trying to get the names and numbers of the people involved in the fight for evidence. So they did actually have the right to question her in regards to a crime. Any comments on that? No? Okay. All right.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing.
You spoke too soon.
They're both citing laws at each other.
Yeah.
And the thing is that there are a million laws that can be cited. It's kind of like when the busker in New York City was arrested. He was citing MTA policy because he was in a subway system. Thus, it was the jurisdiction of the MTA and the cop. And his belief is that the cop only has to enforce basically MTA policy absent any other kind of crime. Well, that busker was charged with the New York City-based crime of loitering, which had nothing to do with the MTA other than the MTA being located in what you call New York City. And so they're just going to pick a jurisdictional approach anywhere from the top of the state level to local ordinances to bother you. And so she's going to plead the Fifth. The Fifth Amendment doesn't matter unless you're in a federal court.
Yeah. Well, that's not true. State court, you can take the Fifth Amendment because it's under the all state constitutions also have a Fifth Amendment right to incrimination, but you don't have the right to take the Fifth. They claim you don't have the right to take a Fifth in a civil trial, as an example, where because the laws are different.
They also deny the right in traffic court for a jury trial, even if you submit a proper motion requesting.
Right. Yeah.
Which
how they get around the Constitution on that one? Because it's like, well, if you're going to fine me more than $20, it says I get a jury trial.
Yeah.
And if you do have a lawyer can force them. A lawyer can force them to actually give you a jury trial for anything. But you need an attorney to be able to do it.
And they have to be charging you for a lot of money for anybody to bother with that. Yes. So small amounts of money, that's why everybody just looks at you crazy. Like, oh, just pay them what you owe. Well, there's no trial. There's been no verdict yet on anything. I don't owe them anything yet.
He walked up behind a young mother holding her baby. I mean, a sucker punch is one thing. Kicking a woman in the back as she holds a 3-month-old baby, that's a whole new low. New York police said they apprehended Alonzo Brown, an 18-year-old suspect in a brutal attack on a young mother in the Bronx on Friday. This is a greasy-looking, just dumb-looking person. I mean, he happens to be black, but he's just like, staring at the camera. In surveillance footage released by law enforcement, the man and police have identified as Brown can be seen walking up behind a victim, a 24-year-old woman with a 3-month-old child strapped to her chest. And then it appears he kicks her to the ground. The suspect can be seen stopping to retrieve something. He's basically robbing her and then running off. The attack occurred around 12:45, and the victim had her cell phone stolen in the assault. And it's all kind of videotaped, by the way. An NYPD spokesperson told The Blaze Tuesday morning that Brown had been taken into custody and charges were pending. He was just walking around respecting Mike Brown, probably. So, so there's that one. Man films himself being attacked by cops after not rolling his window down all the way. Why did you pull me over, officer? Because I wanted to. Now step out of the vehicle. That's the headline on the story. As Curtis Shannon was driving home from work on the night of December 26, 2013, when he was stopped and assaulted by St. Petersburg, Florida police. According to Shannon's description on South Florida Cop Block's website, just before he got home, a police cruiser pulled behind his car and was following him very closely. Both he and the cruiser stopped at a red light, and when it turned green, and just after he started making the last turn before he got home, lights started flashing. Being less than a half block from his house, he put his hazard lights on and slowly backed into his parking space. He then turned off his car and headlights, turned on the interior lights, and waited to see what the issue was. When the officer approached his vehicle, he asked to see his papers, and Shannon told him that he was looking for them. When Shannon found his paperwork, he offered it to the officer, but the officer did not take them. Instead, he told Shannon to roll his window down all the way. And according to Shannon, the window was a quarter of the way down. And he has a video of this also, but it was clearly down enough to hear the belligerent officer barking at him. Shannon then asked the officer, "Why did you pull me over, officer?" He responded with, "Because I wanted to. Now step out of the vehicle." Shannon then reported, because I want to isn't a legal reason to pull someone over, let alone ask them to step out of their car. Can you tell me why you pulled me over? The officer then walked around the back of his car to check his license plates and call for backup. The rest of the story actually can be seen in the video, but according to the policeman, to the police report, the officer claimed that he feared for his life during the stop. Quote, "I exited my marked patrol cruiser, walked towards the vehicle, and I noticed the driver staring at me with a blank stare as he continued revving the engine louder and louder. I thought by his actions the subject was going to attempt to hit me with his car." Okay, and from the video we can clearly see that Shannon was courteous and respectful during the entire stop and hardly a threat to the officer. In fact, it can be argued that the only threat to anyone in this situation was the policeman. Shannon was arrested and charged with resisting and obstructing with violence, a felony. The charges were later reduced to resisting obstructing without violence, a misdemeanor. Shannon has since set up a GoFundMe page to help cover the attorney fees in fighting these charges. And, of course, he's got it on video most of the way, showing that he really didn't do anything wrong. And meanwhile, a thrill killing. Once again, this is all our friends in Missouri. What a lovely place to live Missouri must be. A group of 5 black males murdered a white 20-year-old pizza delivery man in what the race-censoring media calls an attempted robbery. However, no money was taken. The victim is a Bosnia. He's from Bosnia-Herzegovina. And the murder took place in a 97% black census tract near Martin Luther King Boulevard. Run! In the hillside area. Police believe that suspects ordered a pizza to a neighbor's address. When the victim arrived, they shot him while he was still sitting in his car. The suspects then left. A police officer on duty later spotted the victim's car drifting across the middle of the road. The driver was unconscious with a gunshot wound to the head. He later died at the hospital. The murder appears to be a racially motivated thrill killing. In Hillsdale, a 20-year-old man from St. Louis County has been charged with second-degree murder and robbery in the shooting death of the pizza delivery man, and another is wanted for questioning. Chester Romel Woods, another genius-looking fellow with hair like a Gorgon sister, is being held on $250,000 bail at the St. Louis County Jail. Pretty low bail for murder, I might add. He was charged on Sunday and was scheduled for his first court appearance Monday morning. St. Louis County detectives are looking for Shermel A. Crockett, 20, who is known to stay in the Hillsdale and Pine Lawn area. Crockett is also wanted for questioning about the incident with no warrants have been issued charging him with a crime. Woods lives at the 2100 block of Rosebud Avenue. St. Louis County detectives are searching for a second suspect to question in the death of Danhill Maximenko, 22, of Baldwin. And Maximenko was working at the Northwoods Emos franchise when he was called to deliver a pizza to the address of the 2100 block. Before he got out of his car, he was ambushed. Court records say he was robbed only of the pizza. So they shot this kid in the head just to basically get a pizza. Charges indicate that Woods was not the gunman. Maximenko was robbed at gunpoint, and Woods and 3 others, court reporters say. And the responses to this are always more interesting. Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, any comment from you or the other race-baiting ghetto thug, riot-inciting leftist whores? That comes from Zurich Mike. And sounds like a completely random crime to me. I don't see any racial motivation. Well, they wanted pizza. Also, charges dropped for a cop who fatally shot a 7-year-old black girl. So, and I'm going to play something for you in just a second. In all of the melee resulting from the shooting of Michael Brown by Officer Darren Wilson, the media has overlooked a number of other very important shootings of unarmed civilians by police officers. And I don't know how other than to drive this fact home over and over and over again. Since 9/11, between now we're looking at 14 years or so, coming up on 2015, after 9/11, I mean, you can count on maybe your fingers and toes how many people have been killed by terrorists inside the United States. Police, with their over-militarized tactics, with their weapons that are being sold to them right off the streets of Iraq and Afghanistan, with their now paranoia about every vehicle they come up against is going to have a bomb in it, whatever else. All right, there we go. Anyway, that's The Wait by the band, of course. As I said, kind of as, pulled into Nazareth, was feeling about 10:30, looking for a place, take a load off Mary. A couple of stealth Christmas songs, actually. Not a song that you would usually think is related to Christmas, but... All right. In the melee resulting from the shooting of Michael Brown by Officer Darren Wilson, the media overlooked a number of other important shootings of unarmed civilians by police officers. One of the most egregious offenses is that of Officer Joseph Weekly's fatal shooting of 7-year-old Ayanna Stanley-Jones. And she's got a little picture here where she's posing with a bunch of Disney princesses, and she looks adorable. Officer Weekly recently saw manslaughter charges dropped against him for shooting the 7-year-old while she slept. He probably thought she was a bag of drugs. The Detroit police officer had been on trial for involuntary manslaughter. Who was shot and killed during a 2010 police raid. But in early October, Wayne County Circuit Court Judge Cynthia Gray Hathaway granted a motion, which Weekly's attorney had filed, arguing for the dismissal of the felony charges he faced in the young girl's death. The trial was brought to an end while the Michigan Court of Appeals reviewed an emergency appeal of the ruling. Presiding Judge Michael Talbot issued the order to deny the appeal and allow the judge's dismissal to stand. Quote, although I find the trial court erred in form and substance in granting defendant's motion for directed verdict, we are barred from reviewing that decision, Talbot wrote. The shooting happened just after midnight on May 16th of 2010. A SWAT team had conducted a raid to search for a murder suspect. Weekly ended up being the first man through the door. There was even a film crew on hand to film for a reality show about murder investigation. So this is a bunch of cops busting into somebody's house, being extra macho, because there were TV cameras there. Weekly says, and by the way, they all think it's a good idea now for these cops to all have cameras on their chests to be able to see everything they're doing, and may that or may that not exacerbate what their actions are? Maybe. Or will it weed out the good cops and help catch the bad ones? Weekly says that another SWAT member had thrown a flashbang grenade, which temporarily blinded him, and that's when he fired the shot that killed Ayanna, who was asleep on the couch in the front room of the house. So you're blind, you go into a house. Aren't you supposed to throw the flashbang grenade in through the window before you bust into the house? So you have policemen in the house and they throw a flashbang grenade? Does that make any sense at all? Because the first thing you want to do when you're a policeman and you've been blinded by a flashbang grenade is just shoot everything around you. Doubling down on this claim in court, he actually testified that Ayanna's grandmother had somehow touched his gun. I hate when girls do that. Which made him fire the shot. But he failed to explain how he could tell she had done this when he claimed he couldn't see anything at the time. The prosecution noted that even having his finger on the trigger of a submachine gun was improper procedure. Not for cops. He could have avoided injury if he had simply followed his training, Assistant Wayne County Prosecutor Robert Moran explained. He didn't, and as a result of him not following his training and not following the mandates of ordinary care, a child was killed. But ultimately, the arguments and reason didn't win out. Roland Lawrence, the chairman of the Justice for Iona Committee, issued a statement after the court's decision was announced. Surely the death of a baby by a well-trained police force must be deemed unacceptable in civilized society, Lawrence said. Steve Fishman, Weekly's attorney, claimed that even though he did not dispute that his client pulled the trigger and killed the girl, quote, there is absolutely no evidence, none, that is in the least bit credible that Officer Weekly knowingly created a danger or, more importantly, intended to cause injury. He was in a SWAT uniform with a loaded submachine gun with his finger on the trigger inside a room when they let off a flashbang grenade, but he did not knowingly create danger. Isn't that the very definition of what they were doing? And after the dismissal, the only charge Weekly faced was a relatively minor misdemeanor charge of careless discharge of a firearm causing death. So, so once again, I might want to point out that of the 10,000 people that police have killed in the last 14 years since 9/11, I'm not even sure how many of them have been held to accountability for any of those crimes. All right. And we were just talking to JP. JP, how many people get killed by the police where you are in Scotland? Thank you. That's the best
exactly.
answer. How much how much racial violence do you have where you live in Scotland? Do you have like the McTavishes all picking on the Talbots or anything?
They don't like English. They don't like English people. They don't
like English people.
Yeah, that's the racism here. They don't like English people because
not enough to kick them out as their lord and masters, but apparently they don't like them enough, right? Although we all know.
As I said, it's National Resentment Week, and it's a resentful, rainy country, but it's a lovely place.
Right now, Steve, you had some comment about a chokehold. What about the chokehold? Stephen, wake up! All right, never mind. Okay, no, I'm sorry, muted. Okay, no, so okay, you just text me something about don't forget the chokehold.
Yeah. Sorry, I was muted and it took a minute, so I was ready for the clip.
That's fine. We'll do the clip in just a second.
Okay. No. There's just like now we also have today the grand jury in New York, just like with Officer Wilson, and with this, of course, we have a full video of the event. I forget the name of the victim, but the guy who was in the chokehold, death for, basically also, standing up for himself for being harassed over triviality.
Okay. Well, in the LAPD, they used to have the chokehold here, and they banned it, from the LAPD using it. And that's what then led to the whole Rodney King thing, because instead of just choking out Rodney King when he wasn't doing what the police were saying, they had to beat him with the sticks, because they outlawed the chokehold from the LAPD. All right, now there is another piece of video here that I think is a fantastic little piece of esoterica, and there has been a huge amount of black outrage that has not been covered anywhere in the mainstream media, as far as I can see. That has not been covered anywhere in the mainstream media, and this black outrage has been from blacks who have gone to YouTube, because they're not being covered by the mainstream media. The mainstream media has not once, as far as I can see, actually interviewed any rational African American that has looked at what was going on in Ferguson, Missouri. So I wanted to give this young man, Frederick Wilson II, and he has a YouTube video up, which you're welcome to go take a look at, but look up Frederick Wilson II. And I've got the time here to be able to play it, and I just want you to hear what he has to say. So, once again, hit it.
What's up, y'all? I know it's a pretty diverse group of people that's watching this, and that's cool, but this one's going out specifically to my black people. Now, I'm going to say this once. Yes, slavery was one of the most horrific things that ever happened in human history. Yes, racism still exists. It's probably always going to exist. Just get over that. And yes, there are law enforcement officers out there that take things too far, abuse their power. They're humans. We're a flawed species. With that being said, today we're going to talk about personal responsibility. Black people, it is 2014. Hate to break this to you. If your life is messed up, it ain't because of slavery. Your ass was never a slave. You probably ain't know nobody that was a slave. You probably don't know nobody that knew nobody that was a slave. Slavery ended a long time ago. Yes, it put us in a big hole in this country, but guess what? Dig your way out of it. Civil rights, about 50 years ago. I don't know if y'all know, we won. We like Google it, we won. Yeah, it was a fight. They marched, they sat in, we won. So in 2014, if your life is messed up, look in the mirror, figure out what you're doing, what you're not doing. Take some personal responsibility for yourselves, for your lives. I understand, sometimes you can't help the hand you were dealt. You were born in the ghetto, in the projects, you were born in a bad situation. Nothing you can do about that. But what you can do is do your best to get out of it. If you live in a messed up neighborhood, let me give you a little advice. Stop messing it up. Ain't no rich white man sneaking into the hood in the middle of the night, spray painting graffiti, peeing in hallways. George Bush ain't out in the neighborhoods selling crack on the corner. You know what I'm saying? If your neighborhood is messed up, it's because the people in the neighborhood continually mess it up. All this, stop snitching, everything like, no, start snitching. Go out there, clean your neighborhood up, and then keep it clean. Somebody come through after y'all clean it up, messing up, snitch on them. Call the police. Y'all like to pull your little camera phones out and record little ignorance and put it on World Star? Pull your camera phones out and record crime, get out to the police so that way people can be prosecuted and we can stop this cycle. Teach your kids something. Guess what? Swag and Jordans and everything like that, that's cute. But guess what? No, get you an education. Get an education, get a job, better yourself, better your situation. Let's talk about the police violence. Told y'all the other day, stop bringing stuff upon yourself, be complicit. The little video of my man Powell that got shot in St. Louis. Why would you think it's a good idea to run up on two cops when they tell you to stop, put down whatever you got? I'm going to keep coming at them, then they're going to shoot me. Now it's black people, we supposed to be mad, and oh my God, we need to go out there and march right. No, we don't. Stop doing crime. Here's the thing. Let's talk about Trayvon Martin for a second. Now, George Zimmerman had no business running off on that kid, and it's a shame that somebody lost their child. But the thing that nobody talked about with Trayvon Martin, in this day and age, why is it that when people see a young black man, the first thing they think of, what's he doing? Is he up to no good? He looks like trouble. You know why that is? Because that's our perception. Because that's the perception that we keep giving people. The way we act, the way we carry ourselves, the fact that how many young men out there have criminal records before they turn 18? How many men out there before they turn 25 have been incarcerated at least once? And then we want to talk about, the justice system isn't fair, they come down hard on us. Okay, that may be true, but did you do it? Just because they gave you more time than they might have gave the white person? If you hadn't done the crime in the first place, you wouldn't have got any time. So stop using that as a damn excuse. If you already know that they're going to come down hard on you, that's to be even more of an incentive to stop doing crime. Stop being ignorant. Stop glorifying ignorance. This little rap lifestyle that we looking at, Lil Wayne, all these rappers out there, that's not real life. That's the kind of life that leaves you dead or in jail. And it's a damn shame that in 2014, we are still talking about this. We are still talking about the same stuff that's been all in the Tyler Perry movies, all in the John Singletary movies that we was talking about back in the 90s, Boys in the Hood, black on black crime, stop killing and looting. We need to stop being ignorant, take some responsibilities for ourselves, change our perception, the way people see us in the world. You want the cops to stop messing with you? Stop giving them a reason to. You get pulled over for DWB, for those of y'all don't know, that's driving while black. Don't be mad at the cop. Be mad at the brothers that came before you. You gave the reputation to the black man for a cop. See, hey, look, there's a car full of brothers. They're probably up to no good. Get to the point where when cops pull us over for nothing, they keep coming up empty. Eventually, they'll stop pulling us over. But right now, hey, there's a car full of brothers. Let's pull them over. Oh, somebody got a warrant. Oh, somebody got a weapon. Oh, somebody got some drugs. So, yeah, they're going to keep doing it. Why? Because it works. You go to the crap table, you roll the dice, you keep coming up with 7, you keep rolling the dice. You start crapping out, you'll stop rolling the damn dice. Stop giving the police, stop giving the public at large reasons to look at us like we're second-class citizens. We get looked at like that because a lot of us act like that. And it may not be the majority of us, but it's the perceived majority of us because it's the ones that you see out there on the World Star videos, on the internet, on Facebook, just acting ignorant, just acting like we don't have no damn sense, like we don't have pride as a people. Have some pride in yourself. Take responsibility for your life. Everything is not somebody else's fault. Sometimes it's just you. Empire. I'm just saying.
All right, there we go. All right, so this is, and actually we're just going to queue up this one other video, if you want to cue that up. For example, and let me give you one other thing too. Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson went to Ferguson, Missouri. And they went to Ferguson, Missouri, and they got booed off stage. They were run out of town. And you know why they were run out of town? They were run out of town because they said the solution to Ferguson, Missouri was for everybody to register as Democrats and vote Democrat in the next election. And they were booed off the stage by the people. And that's why I haven't seen Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton at the head of this whole thing. That's what they said. Fuzzy was a bear because Fuzzy wants you to be a Democrat. And if you vote Democrat next year, then everything will be fine. That's Jesse Jackson. We actually have a talk show here where they play a game called What Did Jesse Say? And they actually play clips of Jesse Jackson on the radio when you actually call in. You guess what he said. All right, one more, just a little bit more rage here because you're not hearing what rational Afro-Americans are saying, what people who, although it was kind of funny, I'm sitting with a friend of mine and everybody was marching. And my friend said, I wonder where they're marching to. And I said, oh, they're all going to their jobs. And everyone laughed. All right, so cue up the second one. This guy's really mad. But this just goes to show you the reaction against what this small group of idiots is doing. And for example, myself and even Steven and Stacy, the stripper economist, we were out walking around Times Square, I think about 1:30 in the morning. That was before we saw Ace Frehley and at the BB Kings. And there was 40 people, I think. You know, there was more cops actually on horses and everything else watching these 40 idiots and only 2 of them were black, by the way. And we're sitting here going, well, where are the black folks at? And these are the people that were supposedly protesting. This is the night that this whole decision came out for the Ferguson, Missouri thing. And by the way, those same 50 people, maybe 40 people, were the ones that were responsible for supposedly disrupting the Macy's Day Parade. Really? You got to pick on balloons. You got to pick on something that little kids watch, you know, because, it's... and they've goofed up the traffic here in Los Angeles for the last week or so. And again, I'm sorry, but that's a hanging offense in Los Angeles. I told you, the commandments of Los Angeles. Number 1, you never get the kids involved. Number 2, you're never drunk before lunchtime. Number 3, you never, ever, never, ever, never, ever, ever, never, never, ever, ever do anything to mess with the natural flow of traffic. We didn't care that OJ killed his dopey white wife. We were pissed off at the fact that he screwed up traffic on the 405 for the better part of a day. Should have hung him from the Skirball exit just for that, because that's a capital crime. That's like horse thieving in the Old West. So, anyway. All right, play the second guy. The second guy is going to be kind of fun. We're going to play about 2 minutes of this. Go.
Hey everyone, it's Jonathan. I just want to get straight to the point about this Michael Brown incident. Let me tell you something, and I said this before. What we're doing out here is not helping. Us rioting, looting, burning down donut shops and stores and everything else, liquor stores, Shanae's hair salon for the extensions. This is not helping. Us acting a fool out here because we pissed off at the police is not helping. I said this before and I said it again. Change is not going to come until we change it. You understand what I'm saying? This is not helping. Change isn't going to come until we change it. All we know how to do is march and riot and loot. This is not helping. What you guys are out here doing is not helping. And I hate to say this, but I'm going to tell you what you need to hear opposing to what you want to hear. All we know how to do is blame the police and white folks for our actions. That's all we know how to do is blame police and white folks. They mistreating us. They beating on us. Oh, slavery still exists. Oh, I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it. I'm not going to tell you we going to march, we going to do this, we going to do that. I'm going to tell you, damn it, let's change. Let's change as black people. When is this going to stop? When? How are our children supposed to grow up when we out here acting a stone fool? How are our kids supposed to grow up when we out here acting stupid? How? How? Even the book of Deuteronomy in chapter 2 verse 3, God said, we have toiled this mountain long enough. We have toiled this mountain long enough. 40 plus years they spent in the wilderness. It's been over 50 years since we sang that song, We Shall Overcome. Hell, when are we gonna overcome? When? That was 50 plus years ago, and all we doing is going around in circles. Going around in circles. You activists out there, you civil rights leaders, all of a sudden Black Panthers and NAACP come out the woodworks. They just came out of nowhere. Oh, we don't want justice. We want justice. No justice, no peace. That's all you see. No justice, no peace. Shut up. When there was 60 plus shootings in Chicago a few weeks back, where were you? Nowhere to be found. A few weeks later, it was 47 drive-bys in one weekend. Where were you? Nowhere to be found. When Lil Ray kills Little Lukey, where were you? Nowhere to be found. Okay, when them little girl was shot when she was riding her tricycle in the front yard and stray bullets hit her, where were you? Nowhere to be found. Police beat up on a black man. Oh, no, slavery still exists. Slavery still exists. Oh, shut up. Because I hate to say this, and I know this is going to piss a lot of people off. All the incidents I've seen, all the brothers was resisting arrest and causing trouble. Okay?
Okay, that's enough of that. And I'm not kidding. I sent you guys this. I'm going to put this on my Facebook page. There's a black guy holding a sign, and he's out in front of what looks like a school, and he's holding a sign. I'm not kidding. The sign says, "No mother should have to," and it says "no" in red. Mother should have to fear, also in red, for her son's life every time he robs a store. That's going on my Facebook page. No mother should have to fear for her son's life every time he robs a store. This was actually there's a black man holding this sign. Oh my God, well, once again, we're alternative media. We're trying to bring you the stuff that the media doesn't bring you, and it's and unfortunately, what the media does best is, I guess, what you would call which is, by the way, it's kind of weird because it's the white socialist media is flat out guilty of hiding the facts about black on white crime. They don't want to give you any of the statistics. They don't want to give you. They'll all say it's education. They'll all say it's because of slavery. They'll all say this and that and the other thing. The African Americans make up approximately 17% of the population, and yet they make up close to 60% of the people who are in jail for violent crimes. And the greater majority of liberal blacks of all ages have always hated whites. But the fact is that they also hate and kill Asians, Latinos, Jews, and everyone else too. But we can't forget that it's only the conservative blacks that are not Medicare, Medicaid, Blue Shield, Kaiser Permanente, and then every other commercial was about a pill for diseases that I've never heard of. I have no idea what the pill is there to treat. All I know is that they cause heavy breathing, rashes, heart palpitations, hemorrhoids, and anal leakage, and possibly death as a side effect. Death as a side effect? I didn't think that's a side effect. I think that's a pretty big effect. So Ellen DeGeneres and Portia de Rossi are now celebrating 10 years together. Oh, lesbian love is so amazing. Oh, one just wishes that you could just dive in that sandwich, huh? Come on, guys. You know you can turn them. You know you can do it. You know you can do it. And, of course, no indictment in the Eric Garner death. This is kind of cool. Roger Daltrey actually crashed a wedding and basically sang a bunch of songs with the band. Jon Stewart accuses Fox News of racial plagiarism, according to him. Emma Watson looks gorgeous in a plunging jumpsuit. And Chris Rock summed up the pain and frustration of the Eric Garner decision on a tweet. So, there it is. But I was saving the story for JP. British censors have now banned spanking, female ejaculation, and other sex acts from online porn. Yeah, because that's going to stop them. Lawmakers in the UK have deemed face-sitting to be a life-endangering act worthy of censorship, the Independent reports. I thought that was encouraged by a Monty Python sketch called Sit on My Face, which I would pay you $5 if you actually found that song online and actually played it for me. Steve, if I know you're muted out there, but if you can actually find me, Sit on My Face by Monty Python, I'll give you $5. It's just one of many sex.
Bear with me, I got that one.
Okay, it's just one of many sex acts that are now banned from porn produced in the UK. Don't just play it. Wait for the cue. Just let me know if it's there. The website reports that a quietly passed amendment that censors on-demand porn enacted Monday takes aim at a slew of sexual acts that are often featured in BDSM films. Wow, Brian David Sean Morton? What? Films about me? Oh, no. How do the British actually have sex without tying each other up? See, English people don't really have sex. They just tie each other up and poke each other with sticks. And then they wear masks, so if anybody finds out, oh, that's not me, it was Rodney, obviously. The sex acts were already banned from sex shop DVDs, which are produced in the UK, but the new legislation extends censorship to now online porn. And the following sex acts, ladies and gentlemen, are now banned from British porn. According to The Independent. Spanking, caning, and by the way, spanking and caning in these videos are done fully clothed, I might add, so there's not much porn in it. Aggressive whipping, as opposed to passive whipping. Penetration by any object, quote, associated with violence, unquote. Physical or verbal abuse, regardless of if consensual. Oh, you dirty girl. Oh, you rotten thing, you. Oh, do that. You've been a very bad girl. Urolangnia. All right, I'll give you $5 if you tell me what that means. Urolangnia. It's known as water sports. Female ejaculation. What? Strangulation and face sitting and fisting. Quote, it's a set of weird and arbitrary censorship rules, says Jerry Barnett, the founder of anti-censorship campaign Sex and Censorship, told Vice UK. They're simply a set of moral judgments designed by people who have struggled endlessly to stop the British people from watching pornography. The internet groups behind the legislation are police, Child Protective Services, and the British Board of Film Censors, Barnett said. The Independent points out that worryingly, the amendment seems to take issue with acts from which women more traditionally derive pleasure than men. Okay. But there may be a loophole since the law appears to apply only to porn produced in the UK. The Swedes are behind this. Oh, the French. I know it. They fight with their feet and fluke with their faces, those stinky French. But people with fetishes for these acts can probably still stream smut that's just made, 26 miles away. If LA's mandatory condom laws didn't stop Southern California from making porn, albeit unlicensed underground porn, then censoring pee parties and face-sitting likely won't stop the Brits from watching. All right, Steve, you good? Play it, Steve.
Oh, am I live?
17 states are now involved in a lawsuit filed Wednesday challenging the Fresh Prince of D.C., Barky Big Ears, Barry Soetoro, Tony D. Tiger, Harrison J. Bonnell. Oh, I'm sorry. The Prezi of the United States, his gang name, which is Barack Hussein Obama. There we go. 17 states are involved in a lawsuit filed Wednesday challenging President Obama's executive actions on immigration. Here we go. The hero states are, of course, Texas, Alabama, Georgia, Idaho, Indiana, Kansas, Louisiana, Montana, Nebraska, where the N stands for knowledge, South Carolina, South Dakota, Utah, sit on my face, West Virginia, Wisconsin, and the governors of Mississippi, Maine, North Carolina, and Idaho. All states. Texas is the only state in there, by the way, that's really affected by illegal immigration, which is funny. California's not doing anything. North Carolina and Idaho, which I think I said twice. Maybe they filed suit twice. Filed the suit in a U.S. district court in the Southern District of Texas. Why the Southern District of Texas? You should be filing this in Washington, D.C. You're filing lawsuit against the chief executive whose jurisdiction is exclusively Washington, D.C. How is it I know more about this stuff than these people? The states led by Texas charge that Obama's actions violate the president's duty under the Constitution, which they do, to, quote, take care that the laws be faithfully executed. Whoa, that ship has sailed. The Constitution's take care clause, I'm trying to use my Texas accent here. Use the Texas accent, you don't sound like you have an accent until you get to the end of the word, and then everything goes up at the end of the word. So the Constitution's take care clause limits the president's power and ensures that he will faithfully execute Congress's laws, not rewrite them, and under the guise of prosecutorial discretion, Texas Attorney General Greg Abbott said after filing. Abbott, who will become a governor in January of Texas, went on to call the immigration orders, quote, nothing but an unlawfully adopted legislative rule, an executive decree that requires federal agencies to award legal benefits to individuals whose conduct contradicts the priorities of Congress, unquote. And last month, President Obama announced his controversial executive action on immigration, including granting legal status and work permits to nearly 5 million illegals. Which, of course, then, if you take their families and their aunts and their uncles and their cousins and second cousins and, God, I mean, you're talking about 40 million people here, eventually. All right, that's a little much. Maybe 20. But an act which conferred eligibility for Medicare and Social Security to millions of previously ineligible foreign nationals. Let me also point out that an employer who hires an illegal who's here under one of those programs now saves $3,000 per year because he doesn't have to pay for Obamacare for that person. So now there's an incentive to hire these people because you're saving $3,000 by hiring each one of them because you don't have to provide them with Obamacare. How you like them apples? The president is abdicating his responsibility to faithfully enforce laws that were duly enacted by Congress and attempted to rewrite immigration laws, which he has no authority to do. Absolutely correct. Something the president himself has previously admitted. Also correct, Abbott said. President Obama's actions violate the Take Care Clause of the U.S. Constitution and the Administrative Procedure Act, there you go, of 1972, we use that all the time, which were intended to protect against this sort of executive disregard of the separation of powers. Also absolutely true. The Texas Attorney General's office laid out the challenge to Obama's actions in 3 bullet points. 1, the executive action on immigration conflicts with the president's constitutional duty to take care that the laws be faithfully executed. The Take Care Clause limits the scope of presidential power and ensures that the chief executive will uphold and enforce Congress's laws, not unilaterally rewrite them under the cover of prosecutorial discretion, unquote. Number 2, the Department of Homeland Security directive failed to comply with the Administrative Procedures Act required notice and comment rulemaking process before providing that legal benefits like federal work permits, Medicare, and Social Security be awarded to individuals who are openly violating current immigration laws. And number 3, the executive action to dispense with federal immigration law will exacerbate the humanitarian crisis along the southern border, which will affect increased state investment in law enforcement, health care, and education, for which, by the way, the federal government is not providing any money for. But the suit comes as Republicans in Congress also consider ways to confront Obama's unilateral action by just not funding anything he wants to do. This was, in essence, this was a hand grenade. This was an atomic bomb that Obama, who, by the way, has become less and less and less popular. Again, even black folks in Ferguson, Missouri, as I told you, and this is, you didn't hear anything about this in the establishment press, nothing. But when Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson were there and they were saying, you're going to fix all this by just joining the Democratic Party and voting Democratic, they were booed off the stage and run out of town on a rail. If they'd had tar and feathers, they would have used those too. So there it is. And it's, and as far as the executive order goes, as far as I know, executive orders stand, you have to post them in the Federal Register, and there's all kinds of stuff that has to be done with this. But, you know, look, I've said it once and I've said it again. You have a man who is single-handedly at war with the United States, and nothing points out that he is more at war with the people and the government of the United States than this action that he's taken by allowing, because what you're talking about is allowing a mass invasion. It's an invasion. We just need to stop calling them illegal aliens and calling them what they really are, which is undocumented Democrats and invaders. But let me tell you a secret. You can write this down somewhere. You know what the secret to this is? You know why they're letting all these illegals in? Do you know why they're granting them Social Security cards? And this has everything to do with the stuff that I do with bonds, everything to do with the stuff that I've done with student loans, the things I've done with mortgages, the things I've done with with state and federal tax debts and all that by writing loans for this stuff, which again we do. If you're interested in having us help you, you can, I don't advertise on the station doing it. It's all word of mouth because I'm Neo. Apparently I'm some kind of superhuman for the ability to understand the economic system enough to do this. Here's the secret. It's not just 5 million illegal aliens. Eventually down the road, you were talking about 5 million illegal aliens means Reagan let, I think, about between 3 to 6 million illegals in back in the 1980s. It's not 5 million. He's talking about, that's why they're letting all these children in. They let the children in, they've spread the children across the country, and now they're going to reunite them with their parents. Oh, nobody wants to pull a child from his mother's arms. So guess what? They're going to allow everybody, these children that they've allowed to come across the border, now they're going to let mom, they're going to let dad, they're going to let, Uncle Frijoli and the Frito Bandito and everybody else that's related to them to then come across. So you're talking about, and again, I will point out two major aspects of this. Sorry, still got a little bit of this cough. Two major aspects of this that everybody's not mentioning, and you're not going to hear this in the mainstream media. And again, it's my job to report the truth, not to be liked, not to be popular. Here it is. We've lost, if you look at the population of the United States now, which is about between, I think it's about 380 million now. I think about 380 million people in the United States. Of course, if you count the illegal aliens, it's 1.6 billion. But about 380 million people in the United States. Russia has a population now of, I think, about 430 million or so. And that's a lot of Russians. But if you look at what's gone on with the geopolitical, socioeconomic aspect of the United States, number one, and again, I ain't hating, I'm just stating, I'm pointing out a fact, ain't for it or again it. Don't have a dog in the fight, so to speak. It's one of those things where, on the one hand, I can't stand female football announcers because they've never played football. They've never had some 355-pound guy jump on top of them, try to kill them. Well, okay, maybe some of them had a guy that big jump on top of them, maybe. But they've never played football. And I just can't stand watching them talk about football. I also can't stand watching a bunch of men talk about women's reproductive rights as well. What the hell do you know about having a baby or raising a baby or whatever? And a bunch of guys are going to decide what women are going to do with their bodies? They should not even be part of the conversation. But I'm going to say, women are going to be banned from this. Bottom line is, since 1973, Roe v. Wade, they performed no less than about 60 million abortions in the United States. 60 million. That's how many people the communist Red Chinese murdered under Mao Zedong from the time they came into existence, about 1948 or so. The Chinese killed about 60 million of their own people. So you can actually look at, if you look at Nazism, if you look at fascism that killed, I don't know, there's a big war around that, so maybe 15 million people in the war. If you look at Soviet communism, they killed about 125 million people over the course of their 79-year history. Chinese communism killed about 60 million people. Then that puts feminism and, quote, your right to choose as one of the most dangerous philosophies of the 20th century, a murderous philosophy that has been responsible for the deaths of 60 million plus potential citizens.
Sean.
Hang on. Let me finish. I know what you're going to say. Don't want to hear it. Bottom line with all this is that if you're looking at that, you now have a huge socio-political economic hole in your population growth. And any economy that's based on interest banking has to expand, and the population has to expand. So if you're looking at 60 million people who are just gone, what's the best way to do that? Well, you just let everybody else in. And here's the other. That's point number one. Point number two is we're looking at an $18 trillion debt. And whether you know it or not, your Social Security card is not printed or given to you by the Social Security Administration. They're just the ones who administer the cards. They are issued by the Treasury Department. And the Treasury Department issues you a Social Security number, which is a 9-digit CUSIP number. And the CUSIP number with dashes is actually used on the private side, and the number without dashes is actually used on the public side. And of course, there really is no public anymore. Everything's private. Everything's corporations. But if you look at the number on the back of your card, everybody that's got a Social Security card either has a number on the back of the card, or if you have an older Social Security card, it actually, the red number actually came on the little tear out piece that everybody throws away. So if you look at that number, you will notice that number will start with a letter. And that letter is either from A through L, which are the first 12 letters of the alphabet. A through L. The letter M is 13. And some people say there's a Federal Reserve Bank that is M, that actually goes to the Bank of Canada. But if you take a look at the back of your Social Security card, that's an offset bond number. And the offset bond number appears on money. If you actually take a Federal Reserve note, any Federal Reserve note, which again is not U.S. currency. It's not U.S. currency. The United States government, the Treasury only prints coins now, basically quarters and maybe some silver dollars and, dimes and nickels and whatever else. That's all they print. Everything else is a Federal Reserve note. It's a privately printed, irredeemable promissory note. It's privately printed by a private company called the Federal Reserve. It's a promissory note to pay at some time in the future, which means use of these notes actually heaps debt upon your fellow man and upon future generations, which means just using it causes harm in society. Because now you're engaged in the Babylonian usury interest banking system, which is forbidden by God. And it's against my deeply held personal religious beliefs. Well, what are they? Well, they're deeply held and they're personal, so they're none of your business. Which should be your response to just about everything that you don't agree with. And it's not redeemable. Why isn't it redeemable? It's irredeemable because you can't get gold or silver for it. You can actually just take it down and buy it privately, but you can't take it to the Federal Reserve Bank and say, I would like my gold and silver back for this money, please. So it's fake. It's a de facto money system. And the bottom line is, before we go to break here, the bottom line is when they issue you a Social Security card, take, for example, the population of the United States, about 380 million or so, and let's say there's 250 million. I'm not sure if it's that many, but let's call it that. 250 million Social Security cards in the United States. And if you then divide that against the federal debt, which is $18 trillion, you get an idea of how much your Social Security card is worth. On average, it's worth anywhere between $30 and about $60 billion. And if you give kids Social Security cards right out of the pipe, well, you can borrow against that Social Security card for forever. The people are the credit of the nation.
A tiny, tiny bit.
Oh, okay. I used to have their album, and an album is a thing that actually they used to take music and take oil and turn oil into vinyl and cut a groove in two sides of vinyl, and we used to call it a record.
Hey, records come back, man. They come back in a big way.
One other thing too is apparently the Catholics, since we're on this immigration thing, the Catholics are this is from the Catholic New York. The Catholics are all about the immigration stuff, man. They're, you see in all the movies, they're always hiding the immigrants in the basement of the Catholic Church. But they're all for the immigration because not only the unregistered Democrats, but apparently they're all Catholics coming in because it's going to be, they say, it's going to be several months at least before anyone can apply to take advantage of immigration policy changes announced by President Barack Obama on November 20th. You know a story about this that you want to talk about?
Yeah.
By the way, Stephen, I did not mean to snap at you. I'm very sorry. It was
Sean.
It was rude of me. I always want to hear what you have to say. Always want to hear what you have to say.
You got to keep that energy going. Sometimes I don't always know if it's like you're in the zone or whatever. I always just make the interjection to let you know that when you're ready for me, I got something stupid to say.
just do like an English orgasm noise, like eep.
No. What was it? Family Guy did it. They went like, okay, we're gonna watch British porn now. Almost. There you go.
That's funny. Oh yes. I think I'm going. Oh, it's lovely. I'm going. All right. What were we gonna say? You actually had an interesting story. You were shooting your movie.
Yeah, well, I answered a call for like a student film, somebody's project for school, and as an extra, as a churchgoer, so it took a little bit of acting for me to not burn up and die in there, or smacking child molesters in the face.
Can't believe you didn't just burst into flames. I can't believe it.
Exactly. No, but with all seriousness. So during the downtime, waiting for the actual scenes that we actually had to look like, we were there listening to the end of a sermon, there was a Catholic newspaper in print in the lobby that I grabbed to read with me in the pews. I was curious, what are New York Catholics, what is their news? And I looked through it, and most of the newspaper is okay. It's internal church stuff about charity drives, et cetera, et cetera. There were two articles that I noted. were specifically political. There was one on immigration, which is why I wanted to bring this up right now. And then there was another one, which I'm having trouble finding it on the website for the newspaper, but there was another one that was basically about the Ukraine from the perspective of the presence of the East Orthodoxy there, and some criticism of it. And those are all the little things that we know. And so it's very interesting because, it shows you that New York Catholics are meant through this newspaper to be pro-Obama's immigration, funny enough. That's the way I read the article, is that it seemed like it was favorable to at least Democratic immigration policy.
Yeah, it gives advice, basically. It's this article that I'm looking at gives advice on how to use what Obama is doing to get into the United States.
Mm-hmm. And then of course the other one is basically to take the side of any forces that would be against the ideologies of Eastern Orthodoxy in the Ukraine, which is a pigeonholed way of supporting basically the Nazis that they put in the Ukraine.
Well, but people really don't understand that Eastern Orthodox and Russian Orthodox, of which Vladimir Putin is I can't say a fanatical follower. Well, he's a fanatical follower. He and the Russian Orthodox Pope, or the leader of the Russian Orthodox, are tight. I mean, very, very good friends. And people don't understand that this is another reason why the Pope has never, ever been invited into Russia, nor has he toured there, nor has he been invited there, because and it actually goes all the way back to the Tsars, and it goes all the way back to the Inquisition as well. As a matter of fact, just a brief bit of history for you. I belong to an organization called the Knights of St. John, and the Knights of St. John were originally the Templars, and it's actually called the Knights of St. John, the Hospitaliers. And the Hospitaliers, which I thought was interesting because when Matt Smith took over as Doctor Who, and I mentioned this a few times, but when the TARDIS rebuilt itself under Matt Smith after blowing up when David Tennant said, "I don't want to go," and became the new Doctor Who, they actually have the symbol of the Knights of St. John, which is the white cross that has 16 points on it, and it says Knights of St. John, Ambulance Hospital, and all that. And the original Knights of St. John, the Hospitaliers, were responsible for setting up roadside inns, hotels, motels, if you will, but hotels along the way to the Holy Land to help pilgrims who wanted to visit the various sacred sites, most of which were actually named by Constantine's mother, Helena, who named most of the holy sites, whether or not they were the real holy sites or not, or whether or not she was handing out a bunch of money to say, well, show me where Jesus got crucified, or, where did he do this, or where did he do that. So, but during the Inquisition and the persecution of the Knights Templar in 1305, when the kings of Spain and the kings of France both declared the Templars heretics and basically devil worshippers, primarily because they used the head and thigh bones of John the Baptist. And it is believed that they actually take the skull of John the Baptist, and they did, and they mixed up a hallucinogenic mushroom-based psilocybin in the and actually drank it out of this skull of John the Baptist, which allowed them to become one with God. I read this whole story yesterday about about research into psilocybin and whatever else. It's also when because the King of Spain and the King of France owed the Templars a huge amount of money, because the Templars became a banking clan. They were literally the sector of knights that actually pioneered, I guess, what you would call international banking. Because if you gave a Knight Templar a bag of gold in Rome and you told him to take it to London or Paris, you knew that bag of gold would get there. Or you could be given a chit of paper where you put gold on deposit, for example, in Rome, and then let's say you traveled to London or Paris or what have you, you could present that sheet of paper at a Templar bank, and that paper would then be honored, and you could get your gold or silver or what have you. So because they became such a fantastically rich banking clan, in 1305, when the kings of Spain and France decided that the Templars were in fact heretics, and they then rounded up the Templars, and they burned approximately 15,000 of them at the stake, which is kind of interesting because you also have a prophecy in the book of Daniel that talks about that the Catholic Church would become the great second Antichrist, the revised Roman Empire, that they would burn 15,000 saints at the stake actually is described in the book of Daniel, the persecution of the Templars. So 1,000 Templars, this is kind of interesting because 1,000 Templars then went into Russia, where they were actually given sanctuary by Tsar Paul. And the majority of these, all of these knights that went there were what we call the White Cross Templars, or the Knights of St. John, because they were the ones that were responsible for, they were not the warlike Templars, which was the Red Cross Templars. They were the ones that were basically mercenaries hired by the Pope to go cause trouble and create a bunch of chaos in the Middle East to allow the Catholics to pick a war with Islam so that they could then go to battle. Didn't turn out so well for them, because then guys like, Saladin and came along and were great fighters and all this. But that was the story of the Knights Templar, and of course Jacques de Molay was the last of them, and there was actually belonged to an organization called de Molay when I was in high school, primarily because there was another organization, actually the Rainbow Girls and the Job's Daughters were like the hottest girls. So I wanted to go to the dances with the Job's Daughters and the Rainbow Girls. Thank you, Ann Baird. Anyway, so I don't know how I got off on that. Just the banking class on the Knights Templar. Okay, the Russian Orthodox. So there's been a huge ban on the Catholics with the Russian Orthodox for a long time. So you can see why there's this animosity against them. And again, the Catholic newsletter that you sent me just talks about how some aspects will go through federal rulemaking process, which requires formal advertising and comment period that could take a year or more. This is what they're claiming, that Obama's trying to jump. But then they're talking about immigrant assistance organizations such as the Catholic Legal Immigration Network caution potential beneficiaries of any of the new programs and policies to be wary of anybody offering legal advice or help applying for things that aren't yet available. And so this whole thing is about basically come on down, a reprioritizing of who Immigration and Customs Enforcement chooses to deport will mean enforcement will focus on criminals, which it should in the first place, and those who are thought to be threats to national security, and those who are picked up at the border. Those changes should take effect quickly. Deferred action for childhood arrivals, et cetera, et cetera. So this whole deal is from America's largest Catholic newspaper, is advice on how to actually use all of the, not only the Catholic Legal Immigration League, but what to do with all this stuff once it gets passed. All right, meanwhile, some breaking news. Home-birthed breastfed babies are apparently now being taken by Child Protective Services. This is breaking news from Rumor Mills, from the Rumor Mill website. But in the vaccineliberationarmy.com 2012, all three of their babies have been taken away from them and placed in the care of strangers, 10-month-old Levi and newly birthed twins. The birth was perfect. There were no complications with the birth or afterwards. But Erica and her husband, Cleve, had agreed to notify the local paramedics. What's going on here? Everybody's bugging me today. Had agreed to notify the local paramedics in an effort to appease concerned family members who were fearful of their decision to birth at home. And that's when the problems began. This is basically another medical kidnap. It was requested that we call or write the governor of the state of Washington. Erica May and Cleve Rengo now face a court date on December 2nd. They don't know what they will face then. Supporters are hoping that their story will be shared far and wide and their children can be returned home quickly. But this is, once again, this is just more government intrusion. What I might point out is, and I know this is going to sound weird, but there is, because it's all commerce and because it's all private and because nothing's really public anymore, the best way to do this is I know this sounds weird, but you file UCC liens on your kids, Uniform Commercial Code liens on your children, so that you can prove, and there are ways to get around the birth certificate as well, because the birth certificate that you sign, in essence, I've done a whole thing on birth certificates and everything else here that I just can't go into again. But the whole thing about the birth certificate is the birth certificate makes you, in essence, they put you in the, what, sweetheart? What? Okay, I know. What, Gemma wants out now. Come here. You have something to say? You want to talk to people? Okay, all right. She just wanted to say hi. The birth certificate, basically, they put you in the stillborn column, and then they make you a bastard. in essence, because a bastard can't inherit anything. They have to take it in such a way because they run a trust, and they have to make you the trustee and them the beneficiary of the trust. So in essence, what they do is they kill you. They commit genocide on paper. They turn you into a bastard because your mother signs as the informant, basically saying that that the only way you know your daddy is if your mama tell you so, as they say down south. Therefore, they have the mother sign as the informant on the birth certificate, which in essence says, I don't know who the child is. And there's a difference between legally born and natural birth. Natural birth means you don't have a father, that the government gets to step in under what Caligula used to call parens patriae. Parens patriae basically means the father of the nation. And they step in and basically say, look, the minute you hit the ground, you are the property of the federal government because your mother has just signed the birth certificate as the informant, basically saying that you're a bastard. A bastard has no inheritable blood in him, which used to be the reason under the Judaic code, as an example, your mother had to be Jewish in order for you to inherit property. Because part of what you would do if you were an Israeli and you were of the warrior class and you went out and killed a bunch of Philistines, or you raided the city of Jericho, you took concubines you took women home with you as bootay. Therefore, your legal wife was the wife who was Jewish, and she was the only one that could have children through which property could pass. So they put you in the stillborn column, they kill you, they turn you into a bastard, then they put you on a boat as a vessel, as the captain of the vessel, then they take you out and they toss you off the boat at sea, which all becomes admiralty law, and basically they then come back and scavenge your bones when they feel like it. But this is just another case of this, where if you think you own your kids, you don't. Because you sign them away on that birth certificate, which is what creates the vessel, and that vessel then goes directly to the state registrar, and the state registrar then creates you within the matrix as a voter, as a taxpayer, and as a 14th Amendment U.S. citizen. So here we have all three of their babies taken away from them and placed in the care of strangers, 10-month-old Levi, new twins, the whole thing, and the governor of Washington, by the way, is Jay Inslee. His office number is 360-902-4111, 360-902-4111. Or you can email them if you actually go on the Vaccine Liberation Army. They have the story on all this there. So there you go. Sorry. I've had this cough for quite some time, and I'm feeling 100% better. Here is my grandmother's, and I can't get my wife to do it. Hence, my wife is still kind of sick. She's got an ear infection and all this other stuff, and I'm trying to force it down her today. But every single time I would get a cough, I would get a sniffle, I would just kind of go, my grandmother would force down liver and onions and a big glass of milk. And so the only place that serves liver and onions anymore is a place called Norm's, where it's always the 50s. You're sitting there and you hear, Splish Splash and Sea Cruise and Footprints in the Sand by the Sandpipers and all that, while you're sitting there. And of course a relatively diverse clientele, which means you're in fear of your life most of the time. But liver and onions, man, I had liver and onions, had this really bad cough and cold last week. I ate liver and onions and a malted milkshake, and it was gone. And whatever it is was gone. And I actually had the liver and onions today, and I was getting like an ear infection and the cough was getting bad. And now I feel like 100% better. And of course I try to get my wife to eat. She's like, no. She turns her nose up and everything. But liver and onions and malted milkshakes or big glass of milk, it's like a weird Irish cure for everything. Back to Ferguson, Missouri. Actually, I don't have much time here. Ferguson, Missouri, retired Philadelphia police captain Ray Lewis has a message for America. In a recent interview, Lewis makes it known that gone are the days of the police working for the people. According to Lewis, he says, quote, "It's an oppressive organization now controlled by the 1% of corporate America. Corporate America is using police forces as their private mercenaries." Lewis gained notoriety when he crossed the blue line and came out to demonstrate in full uniform at the Occupy Wall Street protests and was arrested along with hundreds of others. Lewis, and this might be another reason why, quite possibly, Ferguson, Missouri was chosen, was basically picked out by the media for them to put all this attention on it. Lewis has called out law enforcement on their overly aggressive tactics, saying, quote, "You should by law only use force to protect someone's life or to protect them from being bodily harmed. If you're not protecting somebody's life or protecting them from bodily harm, there is no need to use force." But again, I want to live in a world where I have no fear of my son robbing a liquor store and getting shot. Now, with the events in Ferguson, Lewis has once again come forward to stand in solidarity with those he sees as being oppressed. Lewis wants America to understand the police are an oppressive force that has been unleashed on the common man by their corporate overlords. And for his part, Lewis claims that he is doing what any good cop would do. Quote, "Number one, I want to give the residents of Ferguson the knowledge that there are some police that do support them. I want to try and get a message to mainstream America that this system is corrupt, that police really are oppressing not only the black community, but also the white community," he added. And in such divisive times, it's important for people to realize that this isn't a black versus white issue, but a blue versus everyone issue. When a former cop is willing to cross the thin blue line in an attempt to help wake people up to the reality of the American police state, the least we can do is help him spread the important message by sharing his words of wisdom in hopes of awakening others. So good for him. And I've said for a long time that everything that you've seen in Iraq, everything that you've seen in Afghanistan, that they were training those people to come home. That's all urban warfare. And I've said, when was the last time the United States actually fought an army? When's the last time that happened? We fight mostly people with, I don't know, with sticks and rocks. And one last thing, I don't know if we have time for this, but as we get kind of running out of time here, but in Midland, Texas, Rosendo Gino Rodriguez, 49, was shot dead in an altercation. Like I said, this is True Crime Wednesday. In an altercation Monday while Midland police were conducting a routine welfare check. The Midland County Mental Health Unit was conducting a regular welfare check at a home on the 2700 block of Washington Street when things went sour. According to the Midland Police, Rodriguez became aggressive during the welfare check. The term aggressive, in quotes, is used loosely by the Midland PD as they claim he acted out said aggression by running away from them back into his house and barricading himself in his room. That doesn't sound like active aggression to me. That sounds like running away. The Free Thought Project would like to clarify the definition of aggressive for the MPD, quote, "ready or likely to attack or confront, characterized by or resulting from aggression, not running away and hiding in your room." A person running in their house and locking themselves in a room is hardly an act of aggression. However, the MPD treated it as such and responded with a SWAT team. A Bearcat armored vehicle, which looks a lot like the Tumbler from Batman, a bomb squad robot with a camera to get a look inside his home, and a DPS helicopter, all because a crazy guy ran in his house. Police claim that after Rodriguez went inside, they may have heard gunshots. However, no gun was found. It's probably him slamming his door. That's what they claim. Nor any evidence of any shots or any guns. But family members say their father had not been on his medication. Monday's welfare check was intended to talk the man into taking his medication. Rodriguez, whose family has been trying to get him help, was likely distraught by the heavy onslaught of police presence and became fearful, locking himself in his bathroom with a machete. Anyway, the end of the story is they